Okay, so let's dive into this. We've got these really interesting pieces from H.G. Wells's The Invisible Man.
Yeah, the classic.
And our plan today is really to get under the skin of these chapters. Go beyond just guy turns invisible.
Right. How does it happen? What's the immediate fallout? The source material gives us so much detail.
Exactly. We want to pull out the key stuff, the surprising bits, right, from these pages you've got, from his weird arrival in that village,
Yeah.
all the way to the chaos that follows and the big reveal.
Let's do it. It's such a compelling story when you dig into Wells's actual descriptions.
So it kicks off in Iping, small village, February, freezing cold day, biting wind, snow everywhere.
Proper bleak midwinter setting.
And into the coach and horses, in walks this figure. And the description is just, a lot. He's completely wrapped up.
Oh, totally. Even indoors, bandaged head, these big blue goggles, bushy whiskers hiding his face.
Hat, coat, gloves, the works.
Yeah.
All still on inside the warm inn.
Which immediately flags him as odd to Mrs. Hall, the landlady. That's the first thing she notices, really. Why isn't he taking his coat off?
And his voice is muffled, and she sees snow melting off him. And later we find out he's actually holding a serviette over his lower face.
Yeah, she catches a glimpse of something white vanishing. It's all these little details building the mystery.
He eventually takes the hat and coat off, but not the serviette. And that's when she gets a proper look at the bandages, covering everything.
Everything except, as the text puts it, his pink peaked nose.
She tries to make sense of it, right?
Yeah.
Thinks maybe an accident, an operation.
Yeah, poor soul. She's trying to be charitable.
And his own explanation sort of feeds into that, initially.
Right, he claims he's an experimental investigator, that there was an accident.
Needs peace and quiet, eyes are weak, sometimes needs darkness. It's vague, but kind of plausible at first glance.
Plausible enough? Maybe. But the insistence on solitude, hating being disturbed, that combined with the look. Recipe for gossip.
Oh, absolutely. And it starts instantly. Teddy Henfrey, the clock guy.
Yeah, Henry thinks it's a disguise straight away, like someone on the run from the police.
Mr. Hall, her husband, he's a bit more, whatever. But Mrs. Hall herself, she's uneasy. She even dreams about huge white heads like turnips.
That's such a creepy image Wells gives us. It shows how much it's unsettling her deep down.
And the theories just multiply in the village, don't they?
Oh, yeah. Criminal is one line. Then Mr. Gould, the teacher.
He thinks anarchist, making bombs.
Which seems a bit much, but shows how wild the speculation gets. Or maybe just a harmless lunatic. That covers a lot of odd behavior, I suppose.
And you get the funny ones, too, like Fear Inside's piebald view, or comparing him to the talent guy.
Silas Durgan, yeah. Suggesting he could make money at fairs. It's like they're trying any explanation to make him fit some category.
But none of them really stick. And the general feeling turns pretty negative pretty fast.
Definitely. His sheer irritability doesn't help. Pacing around, talking to himself.
Likes the dark, keeps the blinds down, avoids people. It's all just off, not normal village behavior.
So they start disliking him, even mocking him behind his back. He's completely isolated himself, partly by choice, partly because he's just too strange for them.
And then the luggage arrives, which only adds to the weirdness.
Ah, the luggage. Described as very remarkable, not just normal bags.
Crates and crates packed with straw, full of glass bottles, and a few big books in incomprehensible handwriting.
Mr. Hall, helping carry them, he's suspicious, poking the straw, feeling all the bottles. What is all this stuff?
And there's that weird little incident with Fear Inside's dog.
Right. The dog bites his leg, tears his trousers and glove.
And his reaction is odd, too. He retreats super fast and apparently changes his clothes almost instantly.
Yeah.
Unnaturally fast.
Another little piece that doesn't quite add up.
Later, Mrs. Hall actually sees him working, pouring tiny drops between bottles and test tubes, really absorbed.
Intense focus. And remember when he smashes a bottle, leaves that golden stain?
Yeah. And his reaction is just, put it down on the bill. Like, desperate not to be bothered. For God's sakes, don't worry me.
These aren't huge dramatic events yet, but they're building this picture of intense, secret work and a very frayed temper.
It all adds up, and it leads to that first, truly baffling encounter. Mr. Cuss, the doctor, tries to talk to them.
Bit nosy, maybe Cuss. Wants to see what's under the bandages.
And he sees, nothing. An empty sleeve.
Yeah, he describes it so vividly. He thinks it's like a fake arm that's been taken off, but then he wonders.
But the devil keeps that sleeve up and open if there's nothing in it. That's the killer question.
And the stranger's reaction is chilling. He gets up, walks slowly towards Cuss, sniffing.
Sniffing venomously, the text says.
And when Cuss admits he saw the empty sleeve, the stranger just lifts it towards his face, right up close.
Cuss says he could look right down it and see absolutely nothing. He's properly scared now.
Understandably. That encounter really ramps things up. It's not just bandages anymore. It's physically impossible.
And then, almost immediately after, the vicarage burglary. Whit, Monday morning.
Mr. and Mrs. Bunting hear noises, definite sounds, movement, swearing.
And crucially, the chink of money. They see a light downstairs, a candle.
But they rush in, poker ready, and nothing. Room's empty.
Perfectly empty. But they know they heard someone. Mrs. Bunting even felt something.
That cold hand and spongy softness near her face. So creepy. And they know exactly how much money was taken. £2 10½ sovereigns.
It makes the burglary deeply weird. Not just a break-in, but something else.
Which sets the stage perfectly for what happens next, back at the inn that same morning.
Mr. and Mrs. Hall go into his room. The door's open, his clothes are everywhere, but he's not there.
They think maybe they hear the front door close, but they're not sure.
And then, well, things go crazy.
Yeah, the furniture comes alive.
The chair just flings itself across the room. The bedclothes literally leap up and attack Mrs. Hall.
Can you imagine your own furniture turning on you?
And then the chair, her mom's old chair, chases her down the stairs.
It's completely surreal. And poor Mrs. Hall, her mind just jumps to the only explanation she can grasp.
To spirits.
It makes sense to her. All the strangeness, the bandages, the bottles, him avoiding church, now this. Must be spirits he's put into the furniture.
The whole situation just boils over after that.
Right.
He comes down furious that he's being ignored or avoided after the furniture thing.
Yeah, wants his bill, confronting Mrs. Hall in the bar.
And a crowd gathers. Everyone's heard bits and pieces, the burglary, the furniture. They want to see what happens. This is the climax in Iping.
And he just loses it, starts tearing off the
The
disguise.
spectacles, the whiskers, the bandages. People are expecting, I don't know, some horrible injury.
A monster, maybe. But the text says there's this flash of horrible anticipation. And then
Nothing. Just nothingness underneath. No visible thing at all.
the shock must have been immense. It's worse than anything they could have imagined because it's impossible.
Total chaos. People screaming, panicking. Mrs. Hall faints.
Constable Jaffers tries to arrest him, grabbing at empty air where a man should be.
You just see the shirt sort of floating and hitting out, but the man himself,
Yeah.
gone, above the collar.
He's shouting something, trying to explain, but no one's listening. He just vanishes into the pandemonium and the crowd scatters in terror.
So the invisible man makes his escape from Iping. Total chaos.
Yeah, and we get little snippets of his flight. Someone hears him coughing and swearing on the hills nearby. Still human, still frustrated.
And then he finds Mr. Marvel.
Ah, poor Marvel. The short, stout chap with the hat just happens to be in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Griffin basically bullies him into being his helper, his carrier.
Yeah, threats, promises. Marvel is terrified but has no choice. He's got to carry the bundle. Griffin needs hands, essentially.
So Marvel becomes this sort of unwilling accomplice,
Yeah.
and Griffin makes his way towards Port Burdock.
And eventually lands up at Dr. Kemp's house.
His entry there is just as dramatic, right? He forces his way in.
Attacks Kemp, and it's during that struggle that he finally reveals who he is.
Don't you remember me, Kemp? Griffin of University College. Chill in line.
Absolutely. The moment Kemp realizes who or what has invaded his home,
And this is where we finally get the backstory, the science bit. Griffin tells Kemp everything.
how he switched from medicine to physics, obsessed with light, with optics.
He explains the core idea, lowering the body's refractive index to match the air, like glass and water.
Right. He explains that most body tissues, flesh, bone, nerves, are actually pretty much transparent naturally. It's mainly the blood pigment, the hemoglobin, and hair color that make us opaque.
So his big breakthrough was finding a way to make blood colorless and deal with the pigment.
Exactly. Once you do that, theoretically, the body should become invisible. He uses that analogy of powdered glass, opaque in air, invisible in water. It's the how.
And it was driven by this intense ambition, wasn't it? Fame.
Yeah.
He wanted to shock the world.
Totally consumed him. Years of obsessive, secret research. And the text gives us that really stark insight into his personality.
His father's death.
Yeah, he basically felt nothing, called his father sentimental. It shows how detached, how ruthless his ambition had made him. Empathy just gone.
It explains a lot about his later actions.
It really does.
Yeah.
And the experiments he describes, pretty grim.
Started small, making wool invisible. But then the cat.
Ugh, the cat experiment. He chloroforms it, then puts it through the process, takes hours, notes which bits disappear last, bones, fat.
And Getty mentions the eyes, the back part wouldn't go invisible, so you just see these glowing green cat eyes floating there.
So disturbing. And the cat escapes, of course. An invisible, possibly very confused cat running around.
And he does it to himself. The drugs, the pain, waking up, seeing his hands like clouded glass.
And the final step, setting fire to his lodging house. To destroy all the evidence, cover his tracks. Ruthless from the start, really.
Absolutely. Which takes us to his experiences being invisible in London. He expected power, right?
Oh, yeah. Extraordinary advantage. Like a god among men, almost. A seeing man in a city of the blind.
But the reality hits hard. The practical problems are immense.
Huge disadvantages he never considered. He can't see his own feet. He's freezing cold all the time. Needs clothes, needs shelter. How do you get those when no one can see you?
People bump into him constantly. Sometimes violently. He gets hit, knocked over.
A dog tracks him by scent, something he hadn't factored in. His feet get muddy and become visible.
Always having to clean them. Just constant, unexpected hassles.
And that whole episode at Omnium's, the department store?
Trying to steal clothes.
Yeah.
He hides there, but then has that weird, almost nightmarish experience.
That dreamlike thing about his father's funeral. Then he gets hunted by the staff in the morning.
Has to strip naked again to escape. Loses everything. Back to square one, freezing cold.
It highlights his vulnerability. He's powerful in one sense, but incredibly exposed in others.
Then the attempt at the costume shop in Drury Lane.
With the owner who has that diabolically acute hearing.
Another struggle. He has to basically rob the guy, knock him out to get clothes, a mask, wig, money, just to function, to be equipped again.
And it's brutal. It shows how quickly he resorts to violence when faced with obstacles.
These London experiences seem to be what really change him, or maybe solidify what was already there.
Definitely. He realizes invisibility isn't the advantage he thought. Not in a city, not in the cold. It's a helpless absurdity, he calls it. The basic needs, warmth, food, shelter, are almost impossible to meet safely.
Which leads him to this new, terrifying plan he tells Kemp about.
The reign of terror. Since stealth and secrecy failed, he decides to rule through fear.
Judicious slaying, as he puts it. Take over a town like Burdock, issue orders, kill anyone who resists.
It's completely megalomaniacal, chilling.
And Kemp's reaction is key here. He's horrified, but also scared.
Yeah, the text implies Kemp is doubting the ethics, but fear is definitely a factor. And he decides he has to act.
He tries to betray Griffin, sends that note to Colonel 80, the police chief, tries to lock Griffin in.
But it goes wrong. Drops the key, Griffin hears, realizes he's been betrayed, and escapes.
And he is absolutely furious, injures a child on his way out. Pure rage.
The authorities react fast, thanks to Kemp's warning. Search parties, dogs, police.
Telling people to lock doors, closing schools, removing weapons. Kemp even suggests powdered glass on the roads.
Which is brutal. But Kemp argues Griffin is inhuman now. Needs must.
And this leads to the murder of Mr. Wicksteed.
Yeah, the suggestion is Griffin was maybe cornered, lashed out with an iron rod he found. A desperate, violent act.
And that description of the voice heard later near Fern Bottom. Wailing, laughing, sobbing.
It's haunting. Suggests Griffin might be breaking down, maybe horrified by what he's done, or just the sheer stress and isolation.
But he's still focused on revenge against Kemp. Sends that note.
The pencil-written note, "You are against me. Death, the unseen death is coming," directly threatening Kemp.
So the siege of Kemp's house begins.
Griffin attacks with an axe, smashing his way in. He even gets a gun somehow, starts firing shots.
Police arrive, but he's inside shouting for Kemp.
But Kemp makes a run for it, escapes with the housemaid out the window, down the hill, into the town.
Shouting, "The invisible man!" Trying to raise the alarm.
And this triggers the final chase. The hunter becomes the hunted.
Kemp running for his life. Griffin right behind him. Invisible, but definitely there.
Kemp's trying to get people to form a line, spread out, trap him. A desperate gamble.
It's chaotic. Then Kemp gets hit, falls.
But as he's falling, or just after, he manages to grab hold of something.
A limp shoulder. He grabs Griffin.
And shouts for help. "I've got him! He's down! Hold his feet!"
And the crowd just piles on. The text calls it a savage game of rugby football.
Just this desperate, violent struggle to hold onto the invisible man. Blows are raining down.
And then you hear Griffin's voice one last time.
Screaming, "Mercy! Mercy!"
It's quite pathetic, really, after all the terror he planned. That scream fades.
To a choking sound. He's overwhelmed, beaten.
Kemp holds his arm, someone else gets his legs. It's over.
And as the crowd stands around, this invisible form slowly becomes visible again as he dies. Broken, wounded.
The text describes it starkly. In an ill-lighted bedroom surrounded by a crowd of ignorant and excited people, betrayed and unpitied, Griffin ends his strange and terrible career.
Infinite disaster. A
Right.
complete failure of his massive ambition.
Wow, what a ride through those excerpts. From that first mysterious arrival,
The bandaged man in the inn, yeah.
through the science, the ambition, the terrible struggles, to that brutal, chaotic end on the street.
It really shows how his supposed ultimate power, invisibility, just led to isolation, pain, and ultimately his destruction. It wasn't a superpower, it was a curse, really.
Absolutely. The ultimate vulnerability, in a way. And the source gives that little coda about Mr. Marvel, too.
Oh, right. He ends up running an inn himself, telling tall tales about it all. Gets the books, apparently.
Yeah, becomes the keeper of the secrets, in a funny sort of way.
It really leaves you thinking, doesn't it, about the cost of that kind of obsessive drive.
Definitely. So thinking about all those details we pulled out, what really sticks with you? What does this deep dive make you wonder about getting what you wish for, or maybe the nature of visibility itself?